There are 7 Pacific Plants vs. Zombies characters who perfectly embody one of the 7 deadly sins: greed, lust, envy, pride, gluttony, wrath, and sloth. I've selected some of these characters who perfectly fit it best, and we're going to begin with wrath. Nothing better fits this model more than Gargantua.
Just look at him. He looks like a man filled with rage.
Anyways, Gantu is the embodiment of wrath, driven by his uncontrollable need for brains. This need for brains first came about in 2009 with the original game, where we saw him and his iconic little buddy make way. They've made an appearance in every Plants vs. Zombies game that has ever been made since then, with a couple of spins on the original design, but overall keeping true to form. Size and strength was unparalleled to any other zombie except for the boss that we've ever seen, and known for crushing plants and throwing imps in the blind fit of rage, he mirrors the mythological figure driven by vengeance. Fueled up by vengeance, his gameplay mechanics are wild. His ability to absorb a significant amount of damage and crush plants immediately, no matter if you have protection on them or no matter the HP, instantly. He embodies the overwhelming strength and force that Wrath would need, and his rage normally blinds him in battle. It just gives the effect of him being a stupid zombie, which, I mean, it's not wrong. But Gargantua stands as a symbol of wrath, both in his destructive ways and actions and in his role in the Plants vs. Zombies universe, where his short temper and thirst for vengeance make him a terrible threat, especially in Plants vs. Zombies 2, where some of those levels are hard. Talking about threats, next up we have a threat to society and probably eating your food is gluttony, meaning excess in eating or drinking. This is best represented by the one, the only Chomper. Chomper quite literally is the ultimate symbol of gluttony. His insatiable hunger is really legendary. It's seen throughout the whole series, where he can devour more than anybody ever could or wishes to. He can eat down a whole person, digest them in about 2 minutes. The game time, but like in the real world, that's like the 15-20 seconds. Driven by his desire to consume and indulge in as much people as possible, and in certain games getting boosts depending on how much he eats. Chomper is completely about devouring endless amounts of zombies or consuming anything that has encountered his path that he knows he can eat. And we all know that the obsession with food that Chomper has leads to overconsumption that affects not only himself but everybody around him. Like the resources, the zombies around him, they all get eaten, so there's no fun for us to have, especially in Garden Warfare 2, because there's a lot of players out there who love to play as Chomper and get really annoying. Talking to all you power Chomper players. And this overall leads him to be quite a sluggish character to play as, but he perfectly does represent sin of gluttony. The next sin that we have up next is greed. Greed is the intense and selfish desire for something, especially power, wealth, or food. So what character in the Plants vs. Zombies universe fits this perfectly? And that would be Blackbeard, the pirate. He is consumed by greed. His selfish desires for treasure, power, and his control knows no boundaries in any of the games, from Plants vs. Zombies 2 all the way to Garden Warfare 2. This is not a surprise to much people that play the games, especially as we can see evidence of his greed throughout the games. And his endless quest for wealth will never end, and the combination of relentless greed and the search for money perfectly summarizes him to the sin of greed. The next sin that we have up is envy. Envy is the desire to have a quality, possession, or other desirable things belonging to somebody else. The plant that instantly comes to mind when I'm thinking of an envious plant is Mimic. Quite literally not having its own persona, it copies the persona of other plants. This plant can't help but feel bitterness when it comes to see other plants succeed, especially in some of the Plants vs. Zombies mobile games, and Plants vs. Zombies 1 and 2. We're not going to talk about 3 because it's terrible and nobody likes it, but it just fully adheres to all of the aspects that envy need in a plant. There's nothing else more that you need to say about the Mimic, because it literally just copies other plants. But a plant that can't be copied, and the next sin that we have up, is lust. Lust is having a strong desire for someone, let's say. I know there's a lot of options out there on people I could pick for this, but one that I always see people being down bad for is Vampire Sunflower. Like, how can y'all be down bad for a video game character like this? It's not even a human. It's not even going to be an explanation. This is just me breaking down some of y'all down badness, but there is a lot of good things that I see come out of this. Like, there's a lot of good fan art, like a lot of good ones, just cool drawings. I saw one about the Vampire Sunflower and the Stuffy Sunflower. It looks amazing artwork. But tell me why there's so much NSFW work out there for this one plant. Like, what do you mean? Like, I have nothing else to say other than damn. Really? This? Okay. I'm just gonna move on. Damn. The next sin we have up next is sloth. Sloth is the reluctance to work or make any effort, or it can be simply called laziness. A plant that I think perfectly fits this description is the walnut. Walnut is the embodiment of sloth. While walnut has the potential to be a solid, reliable defense, he often prefers to remain inactive and avoiding action at all costs, mainly because he doesn't have legs or arms and it's kind of just a sphere there getting eaten. But despite his size and strength, he has some really good features. You got the tall walnut for getting rid of airborne zombies. You have the armored walnut for taking extra damage from zombies eating it. And when you want to splurge a bit on your defense, you have the bedazzled walnut. But he is a very reliable man, always doing his job to perfection, keeping the zombies away from eating your brains, getting into your house and ruin your day. He's a great addition. Might have a little competition from that pumpkin shell, but other than that, he's doing excellent, and he just needs to grow legs, I guess, and move around. But yeah, he perfectly embodies the sin of sloth. The next sin that we have up is pride. Pride is a feeling of deep pleasure or satisfaction derived from one's personal achievement. A character I think perfectly adheres to this sin is Commando P. An inflated sense of self-importance that blinds him to the value of others. He sees himself as a superior, similar to the way that the players who play him feel like. You all should be quite familiar with the Commando P's overwhelming amount of pride that convinces him that it's his way is the only way. This arrogance just isolates him from a lot of his allies, and the cycle of pride becomes quite self-destructive, seen a number of times throughout all of Garden Warfare 2's history, and it learns us a lot about the players who play him and the effect that he gives off. And he learns a bit too late about true success requires humility and cooperation. Through these characters, we can see how each sin, wrath, gluttony, greed, envy, sloth, lust, and pride leads to a personal and communal ruin if left unchecked. They offer a reflection on the human condition, showing how indulging in these vices can trap individuals to a cycle of regret, conflict, and isolation. But before we go, we have a couple of honorable mentions. I want to bring back greed. Greed is intense and selfish desire for something, especially wealth, power, or food. And somebody that perfectly reflects this is a guy called Rux. And if you play the Garden Warfare games, you are really familiar with who this is. This is the guy in the sewers who moved up to the backyard battleground place where he sells special abilities for coins. And some of these abilities are utter useless. Like you genuinely don't need to spend 500 coins for this. And 500 coins is way too much for some of these abilities. A lot of these abilities are so useless. You wish you can get these back. The amount of hours you put into grinding out some of these coins, you don't need this. But if you have any disagreements with any of these, let me know below which ones you would change and tell me why, because I'm not going to blindly believe you until you give me some nice reasonings.